And we are live. We are live. Come on in, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tuesday Talk. And we have Yirser Hotep coming in from Brazil. So this is an international Tuesday Talk. I'm excited to get started. We're going to wait for some people to come into the room, come into the space. Tonight is going to be a great night. As you all know, on Tuesday Talk, we learn and then we do. We just don't sit and learn. We got to start doing stuff, right, people? So that is what today's topic is going to be about, or part of our focus. You're going to learn and then we're going to do. I see the people coming in. Good. You see, what's the temperature like in Brazil right now?
It's raining. I'm in Bahia, Salvador, Bahia, which is the black area, the African area of Brazil, where
Okay.
about 100 million black people live, the largest population of black people outside of Africa. And so the temperature is, it's nighttime here, so it's probably like in the 70s. But today, during the daytime, because we're going into their summer. Their seasons are opposite of ours, so we're going into their summer, and
Okay.
so it's starting to get warm here, and so it's probably in the daytime it's like in the 80s. It's really nice.
Mm. 80 sound good. When you gonna bring me to Brazil with you next time you see her? I can help out with something, carry a mat, something.
Well, I have a tour that I'm going to be doing here.
Okay.
We're doing a tour of Bahia. Um, Again, this is Bahia. Bahia is the area where the culture has been preserved.
Okay.
They still practice traditional African religion, the music, the drumming, the dancing, the celebration, the food, everything is being preserved here, during this time. And so, I'm doing a tour January 18th to the 28th of 2023.
Okay, so it's coming up.
It's coming up in, it's about 3 months. So if anybody wants to participate, all they got to do is let me know. And you're going to be learning about the culture. You're going to be learning about the history. You're going to be learning about the spirituality, and you'll be learning about the ecology, because nature here is tremendous. And so we can do things like see whales coming up out of the ocean. We can see turtles being born. We can see all kind of different things. So that's what's happening.
So,
Forest, rainforest, so on and so forth.
so I know this is a little off topic from what we were going to be discussing, but I just want to ask you a couple of questions about Bahia, Brazil, since you're there. Are you close to the rainforest?
The rainforest, I mean, when you talk about the rainforest, you got the Amazon area, which is further to the west. And Brazil has so many states, like the United States. I forget how many it has. Maybe about 15, 20 states. And so the Amazonia, that's where the part that encapsulates around the Amazon River and the rainforest there. But the rainforest is everywhere in Brazil.
Okay.
So wherever you go, pretty much. I mean, they have mountains, they have hills, they have different areas like plateaus, and so on and so forth. There's lots of beaches. Bahia is on the eastern coast of of Brazil. It borders on the Atlantic Ocean, and so when
Ooh.
you stand on the coast, you go to the beach, you're looking out to the east. I mean, you're looking to the east, you're looking right towards Africa.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So my other question, and then we're gonna get on track. What of the African spirituality have you been able to observe?
Oh, I've seen. I've been here. I've been here a few times. So
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Candomblé, which is their version of African religion,
Mm-hmm.
African spiritual practices, and Candomblé sort of had to be, the African spirituality had to be hidden within a Christian type of concept, you know. So the Christian concept, so they use like white Christian saints in place of the African deities, you know. So instead of having like Ogun or Batala or Yebaya or Oshun, they would have some saint, you
Right.
know, in place of that, you know. So I've seen some of the rituals and stuff. I've seen the music. You know, I think I'm scheduled to meet the person who is the founder or the head of Olodum, which is this tremendous drumming um, company or assembly of drummers that people that's world famous. I think you see Olodum in the Michael Jackson video that he made in Brazil, what he said
Okay.
they don't care about us and stuff, and yeah, Brazil is tremendous. I've seen the orishas, I've seen the shrines, so on and so forth.
Okay. Awesome. That's beautiful. That so it sounds like you've had an opportunity to really get up into the real part of Brazil, and perhaps we can have you back to discuss that for your trip. I wasn't expecting that, everybody. I knew he was in Brazil, so because I scheduled this with him, but that's great. Understanding the diaspora and how we are all over really, in my opinion, shows how similar we are and how we've been able to maintain pretty much the same African mind when we are in our own space and when we create. And that brings us to our guest today, Yirser Hotep, master yoga instructor and recreator of Kemetic yoga. And today we're going to have a couple of different components to understanding what Kemetic yoga is, and of course, how it's beneficial to you so you can actually use it and not just do it and then go have like a cheeseburger from McDonald's. Like, we want to explain how this yoga can be, a segue into a healthier life. So, even though we've been talking and a lot of you know who he is, I'd like to introduce our esteemed guest this evening, Master Yoga Instructor Yirser Hotep. Everybody give him a round of applause. Yay.
Well, thank you.
Welcome,
And
Yirser.
and let me say this before we get off the topic completely of Brazil.
Okay.
Another thing that's happened in Brazil is that we're Kemetic culture, Kemetic spirituality is being being introduced into the ecosystem of African spirituality here in Brazil.
Okay.
So so with Kemetic yoga, um, that I come here and I work with an organization called Casa de Ma'at, which is run by a sister named Rosa Netalino. And, we train and certify people in Kemetic yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Rosa is somebody who's able to create rituals using Kemetic principles, and she uses Kemetic chants and Kemetic, ritualized things in addition to the actual yoga practice.
Mm-hmm.
We have some very deep and powerful experiences down here in Brazil.
I gotta go.
Yeah,
Rosangela is a member of the Shrine of
yeah,
Ma'at. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yep. So who Yasir was just talking about, she's a member of the Shrine of Ma'at. So let's have a little let's give Kemetic yoga and yoga some scope. Now, when we think of yoga, we think of something that emerges and is maintained from India and by Indians. And we're neither of us have are going to uh, dismiss the contributions that Indians have had with Kemetic yoga. However, did yoga start in India, or did it start in the place where human beings were first? When you think about what yoga is shown to be on TV and in the media, it can look like yoga. It can incorporate breathing and stillness and slow, deliberate moves. But sometimes it looks like acrobatics and gymnastics and dance, which acrobatics, gymnastics, and dance is good for acrobatics, gymnastics, and dance, but not quite yoga sometimes. At the essence and at the core of yoga is connecting with your breath. And if you can't connect with your breath, then one can ask if you're really doing yoga. So part of that I learned from Yirser because I am a certified Kemetic yoga instructor and I got my certification in 2018. So Yirser, before we get into the mechanics of Kemetic yoga, yoga, body movement, anything, can you explain to me how you were able to recreate/create Kemetic yoga? What do I mean by when I say recreate Kemetic yoga?
Well, just to go back a little bit in reference to your original statement, I feel that yoga predates all civilizations. I believe that the first humans who came into existence would did some type of yoga. We get caught up into the word yoga, right?
Right.
And we get caught up into was codified under what was supposedly codified under a person named Patanjali, who is questionable if there was really a person by this name, if he was a historical person, or if he was a group of people or whatever. Nobody really knows. But we get yoga, at least not me, but I think people who are into yoga, they get this idea of yoga comes from India. It started 5,000 years ago. This guy named Patanjali, he wrote the Yoga Sutras and blah, blah, blah. Um, Getting outside of the word yoga, the idea of seeking a transcendent experience
Mm-hmm.
is one which is as old as humanity. And that's what yoga is really about. It's not about doing these different positions and postures.
That's right.
Doing all these different poses and postures, which I love to do, those are more modern types of innovations that was placed into yoga. Um, Part of it is cultural, where and political,
That's right.
because India was colonized by these people called the British, and they had this thing called the British Empire. And they forced or they persuaded or cajoled, whatever methods they wanted to use, people in their colonies to work for them, to be soldiers for them. And so in that process, they started to incorporate their gymnastic systems into the schools where young people were learning yoga, especially young men, right? Because they wanted them to develop strong muscles and stuff like, endurance and strength so they could be soldiers. And so when you see a lot of the more acrobatic and gymnastic and contortionist type of yoga, it's really coming out of those traditions that were um, introduced by the British. Now, that's not saying that people prior to that did not do, were not interested in putting their bodies into all kind of different poses and stuff. because we see in Africa, we see people doing this all the time. It's a natural thing people do. They try to put their bodies into poses. When you see capoeira, right? Like we in Brazil, but capoeira comes from Africa. You see, just like when you watch that movie, The Women King, you see them doing martial arts. You see them doing all kind of different things with their body. So to train the body, doing different movements and postures, learning different types of breathing techniques, because they discovered that when you learn these breathing techniques, they enhance your ability to concentrate, they enhance your ability to focus, and they also enhance your ability to heal. Our ancestors had knowledge of this. They practiced healing, they practiced stress reduction, trauma reduction, in the temples of Kemet. This is not something that just started in India. So people all over Africa, people in other parts of the world, engage in these different practices. The word yoga, we could be generous and say that the word yoga itself is a Sanskrit word and that it relates to India. But the idea of yoga, the idea of breathing, the idea of moving,
That's right.
achieving a transcendent state of consciousness is one which is as old as human beings, and so the first humans engaged in these practices without giving it a name.
So I think it's important to understand what Yirser is saying. Breathing, moving your body, doing different, putting your body in different positions in different forms is as old as humanity. So what does that mean? As long as there's a human being, that human being is going to move their body. Period. So who are the first human beings on the planet? African people. Period. It's like when you have a child, what are they doing? Rolling around on top of their heads. They're doing little triangles, little pyramids, their coot, you know, trying out all types of ways to move their bodies. And that's just a human form that is clearly natural and instinctive, because it's something that we see that babies are doing and that young people do when they're just trying to figure out the physical world, starting with their own physical world, with being their own bodies. Now, one of the things that we do when we're talking about yoga is breathing in the belly like a baby. When babies breathe, they don't breathe in their shoulders. They're not doing this. They don't breathe in their backs. They're just asleep, breathing. Why am I using breathing like a baby as an example? Because it's something so natural that a human being that's been on the planet for seconds, 5 minutes, knows how to do. So that lends itself to understanding that the people who observe nature well enough to decode it, to put it in systems that we call math and science and engineering, of course, they're going to be able to look at the breath and understand how that's connected to the body. Now, the other thing that Yasir said was it was something called yoga, but we didn't put it in those. I'm sorry, it was breathing and it was yoga, but we didn't put it in those words. Why didn't we put it into those words? We didn't put it into that word because connecting with nature, connecting with the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the breath, the natures, the forces of nature, all of those things were natural, and our ancestors did not necessarily always name stuff because it was natural and it was there. We understood that. And that coincides with, and this is my interpretation, that coincides with the breath and with what would later be called yoga. Okay, so Yasir, let me ask you this question. Can you give us a little bit of bio, little understanding on who your teacher was and the work that the two of you did to recognize a yoga posture and say, hey, I'm looking at a yoga posture right over here. Can you kind of tell us how that came about?
Well, I've been practicing and teaching Kemetic yoga for almost 50 years.
That's 50
Right.
people,
Yeah, 50.
older than
Um,
me.
yeah. And for the first 2 years of that experience, I had a teacher, right, whose name is Dr. Azar P, and he's still around. And during the time that I met him, I was also a college student at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Um, and I was persuaded to come take a yoga class by a young lady. And eventually, um, you know, so when I consented to actually go to the class because I was resistant, um, I was already consciously African centered in my, in the way that I thought and in my knowledge base. So I knew what um, Dr. Ben, I knew of Chancellor Williams, I knew of these people in high school, right? I knew of Sheikh Anta Diop, I knew of John Henry Clark and many others, right? So I knew that this thing called civilization, both of us knew, my teacher and myself, both of us knew that this thing called civilization, where you have science and technology, where you have, you know, religion and so on and so forth, that both of these things had their origins in Africa. All of these things had their origins in Africa. And so as I started to practice yoga, my teacher and myself, we had discussions about, well, is yoga something that comes from Africa? So during that early period of time that I was practicing yoga with Dr. Hapi, and he's Dr. Hapi because he's a doctor of naturopathy, and he later became a doctor of chiropractic. So he studied, medicine, except it was medicine from a holistic and natural perspective, right? So he was aware of anatomy and physiology and so on and so forth. Plus, he was a practitioner of Tai Chi. And I became a practitioner of Tai Chi also. Okay. So we both knew that this thing called civilization and all of these different permutations from religion to philosophy had their origins in Africa. So we surmised, well, maybe yoga had African origins also. And then in about 1977 or 78, the the exhibition of the artifacts from the tomb of the pharaoh whose name is Tutankhamun or Tutankhamun came to Chicago, to the Field Museum in Chicago. And so when we saw that exhibit, there was a chair in the exhibit that had a very deep yoga posture on it, but it was very different than any yoga posture that you would see in India. And so the Netaru, I think most people probably know the term Netaru, which is a Kemetic name for what the other folks call a deity. His name was He, H-E-H, and He means eternity or forever, right? And so he's in a position where he's on one knee and his body is turned out in a twisting position of the spine with the head turned, which is engaging the cervical vertebrae of the neck and stimulating the organs of the throat and so on and so forth. So what our task was to, number one, interpret the corresponding symbols that were along with this individual in this particular position, and also to learn how to get into this position, how to come out of the position safely and using the breath, and to decipher the therapeutic effects of that posture. What are the healing benefits of going into this posture? What are the energetic benefits of going into this posture? And what are the psycho-spiritual effects of going into this posture, right? And so those things are things that we learn through experimentation. We looked upon the Medu Neter as being a dual language. It had an esoteric, exoteric. I mean, I don't know if I'm mixing up the words, but it had a obvious literal meaning, but then the symbols also have a symbolic meaning that you have to use a different aspect of your consciousness, not just your intellect, to understand. Because you can learn how to read the Medu Neter, and you can say, well, this symbol means such and such, and this set of symbols or picture writing means such and such, and this is a translation according to Gardner and all the different people who wrote the translations and wrote the dictionaries and the grammar books, right? But there's also an internal understanding of what these symbols mean. And so we have to look at these symbols. We have to look at these things, from the third eye, and so that's what we did. And so after about 2 years of studying, under Dr. Hapi, he told me that I should go out and I should continue to teach Kemetic yoga, because he was going to basically kind of retire from teaching Kemetic yoga. And I said, I'm not interested in teaching. I'm only interested in learning it for myself, because I have moved myself from a state of being very, but my body was stiff, my body was unhealthy. So I had became a vegan. I had started fasting and cleansing. I started reading the books by Dick Gregory and others about, becoming a vegan, a raw foodist, and so on and so forth, right? I was a fruitarian basically for the first year or two that I was started to practice yoga. Excuse me. So I consented to start to teach the classes that he was teaching and to start to spread Kemetic yoga. And so over time, I have added to my own research, which is both research from reading text, from traveling to Kemet, and experiencing the energy and the downloads that you receive when you are in those temples over there. And I have added to the vernacular of what we call Kemetic yoga, through that process, And so when I learned new techniques of Kemetic yoga and I start to teach people report back to me, oh, I feel so much better. My back doesn't hurt anymore. This injury I had to my neck has disappeared, and so on and so forth. And so that gives me a confirmation that the things I'm teaching, the things that I'm doing and sharing with people are actually effective. And oftentimes people say that they feel something above and beyond what they felt when they was originally just practicing hatha yoga or vinyasa yoga or Ashtanga yoga or Iyengar yoga and so on and so forth. They report to me on their own that they feel something above and beyond. They feel a more energetic flow. They feel a more connection to themselves. They feel more integration between their mind and their body and their breath. And they feel a more stronger connection to their ancestors. They start to, certain insights start to become revealed to them because they're practicing yoga from the ancestral perspective. And so yoga, to me, yoga is part of culture. Kemetic yoga is about culture. And so as with all aspects of culture, it evolves, it evolves and mutates itself in order to better serve the needs that we have at this time. So when we started to formulate Kemetic yoga, we looked at Kemetic yoga as a means of liberation. We looked at Kemetic yoga as something that was going to help us to counteract the negative effects of racism and white supremacy and oppression and the generational trauma that we have been experiencing. So that's how so Kemetic yoga was formulated to actually fill that particular need. So the philosophy, the practices, the dietary guidelines that we operate from, the fact that we operate from the principle of Ma'at, because our goal, just like your goal, is to restore Ma'at, because that is the foundation of African civilization. Restoring, maintaining Ma'at, and restoring Ma'at when Ma'at is absent. And so that's what Kemetic yoga is about.
He said a lot, guys. And just like with the other Tuesday talks, if you're just watching now, make sure you go back and really dissect some of the things that was said. When I experienced Kemetic yoga, I had already been doing yoga for 15 years. And so at that point in time, I had come into African consciousness from having had an African background in terms of my upbringing and my parents, not completely extensively, but I wasn't starting from scratch. So when I started Kemetic yoga, I also experienced the same type of connection that Yirser was talking about. I when I practice yoga, or just when anyone practices yoga, there's the physical body. That's pretty obvious, right? Then there's the internal energetic body. Okay. Then you have your spiritual connection that connects all of it. And I experienced that when I did Kemetic yoga. And I really felt it wasn't segmented, but it was one cohesive experience. And when I very, 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 very first started yoga, I heard yoga could do this. Yoga can do that. Yoga is the cure for everything. You can fly to the moon with yoga. I was like, I don't believe all of that. But when I practiced it, I did experience those things. And when I practiced Kemetic yoga, without your seer saying, you're going to experience this, this is going to feel integrated. You're going to have a spiritual experience and connection. You're going to be able to access the ancestors. Your seer didn't say all of that. He didn't say that. That's something that you experience when you are practicing it. Because just like he said at the beginning, in the way that you interpret Kemetic yoga, you got to use your intuition, the same intuition that our ancestors had when they were able to connect our breath to the body to have those kind of experiences as well. So Yirser, now guys, ask some questions. Y'all know the deal. You can put some questions in the chat. We have the master here. He can answer some of these questions. So let me ask you this question, Yirser. We have our intuition. These are our levels. Our intuition with the third eye. We have our energetic body. And then we have our physical body. Then we just have our bodies. Our bodies coming up out the bed. Maybe we have a little belly. Maybe when we look down, we can't see our feet. Our back might hurt. We might have a whole lot of ailments that prevent us from thinking that we can even start yoga. What type of bodies can do yoga, Yirser?
Everybody can do yoga.
That's right.
Okay. Because what is yoga? It is your mindset. So everybody who has a brain, everybody who has a mind, they can do yoga because it's part of, because the most basic and fundamental aspect of yoga is how you think. Okay. How do you think? The other aspect of yoga is breathing. Everybody who has a nose, who has a windpipe and some lungs, they can breathe. And if you breathe consciously,
That's right.
then you are practicing yoga. Yoga, if you have a physical body, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're on crutches, if you're not a quadriplegic, you can do yoga. And I even have people who are quadriplegics who are being taught how to do yoga and are making progress,
Mm-hmm.
in their bodies and their minds because they are actually moving or helping to be moved in certain ways that helps to reconnect the damaged network,
Mm-hmm.
the central nervous system that feeds into the brain and that have been disconnected from the limbs and so on and so forth. In the story of Asar was cut into 14 pieces, right? He was dismembered at certain points in his joints, right? And then his body was put back together. So his members of his body were remembered. He was put back together again.
Right.
And
That's
so
right.
that's part of what we're doing. So no matter what kind of condition that you in, Asar was chopped up into 14 pieces and he was remembered. Why can't we become remembered, or why can't we remember our true nature
Mm-hmm.
through the practice of yoga? And that's what yoga does. It lets you become aware of your true nature. When you lay down on the floor, the first and most fundamental yoga practice that we do is called sahu. Okay, so the other people they call sahu mummy, but the proper name is sahu. And so sahu pose is laying down, putting the hands on the chest, slowly breathing in through the nose, slowly breathing out through the nose, and releasing awareness of the world around us and just focusing internally by focusing on the breath. And by slowly breathing in and slowly breathing out and just watching that slow inhalation with the mind's eye, watching that slow exhalation with the mind's eye, it changes our consciousness. It changes, our, our awareness of who we are, where we are, our concept of time and space, what time it is, where we are in space, where we are oriented. Those um, concepts, those faculties are functions of the brain. They are functions of the brain being conditioned by our environment. So when we withdraw our awareness from the environment and we just focus on pure breathing, then we go into a deep state of relaxation. We go into a deep state of focus and concentration. And then we are able to have other experiences of reality that are normally absent for us. Somebody said, do you need to be in shape already to start doing yoga? And the answer to that is of course not. That's like saying, do you need to be in shape before you start to get in shape? You know, you getting in shape because you out of shape. So yoga has a certain shape that you may be, it has a certain, I'm a former athlete, right? So it has I'm a current athlete too, because I still exercise and work out and do all kind of different things, I ride my bike and so on and so forth. But but you don't have to be. So there's something called being in shape, and there's something called being in yoga shape. Yoga shape is different. It's like if you get in shape to play basketball, you go through certain regimens. If you get in shape to be a forward or a center as opposed to a guard, you go through certain regimen. If you play football, you may be going to certain regimen to be a tackle, which is going to be different than being a running back, so on and so forth. So yoga has its own regimen that you go through in order to become in yoga shape, right? And so, but the difference with yoga is that, like I say, even if you are paraplegic or a quadriplegic, you can still engage in yoga and you can make progress. So
That's
no,
right.
you do not have to be in so-called shape. The purpose of doing yoga is that not the purpose, but one of the effects of the practice of yoga
Right.
is that it will increase your flexibility. It would increase your muscular strength and endurance. It would increase your cardiovascular and pulmonary endurance. It will help you to tone your muscles and strengthen your muscles, and also to strengthen your bones because you're working with resistance. It will also help to stimulate the efficiency of your internal organs, to help your organs to function better, right? Because your liver, your kidneys, your intestines, your colon, your stomach, your spleen, your pancreas, your heart, your lungs, all of those organs, your whole lymphatic system, all the glands throughout your body, all of those different aspects of your being are becoming stimulated and engaged when you start to practice yoga,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going slow with those forms of yoga where you hop and skip and go back and forth like that. Those things are fine, but to focus on those particular systems is not the internal development that you're going to get through a slower practice like kinetic yoga,
That's right.
where you slow down and you breathe yourself into the position and breathe yourself out of the position. And that slow, controlled breathing, which is constant inhalation and constant exhalation, is stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system
That's
and
right.
taking you deeper and deeper into the state of meditation. So it's affecting your mental health. It's affecting your spiritual health, your spiritual well-being. It's relieving pressure, relieving stress, and also relieving trauma. And because of the fact that in Kemetic yoga we do some study about our history, about our spiritual practices and concepts from our ancestors, it helps to restore your awareness of who you really are and what your true nature is. So somebody says, my knees are not that great. It's their positions that don't require one to get down on their knees. And so that's what I'm talking about now. We have people who do yoga who can't even stand, you
Right.
know. So um, there's all types of modifications to
Mm-hmm.
the movements and postures that we do. You have to have a good teacher who understands that, okay, this person has a knee injury. Now, there are also practices that we do that will restore the health of your knees, that will restore the health of your joints and other parts of your body. So if you have an injury, if you have some degeneration in your body as a consequence of living life every day, or you had an accident or an injury, yoga will help to heal those issues. So if you have a knee injury, then you don't want to, so you want to understand what movements and postures to avoid because they may aggravate your knee injury, and what movements and postures should you engage in that will help to heal your knee injury.
That's right.
And part of that is going to be based upon the quality of your teacher. Our teachers in Kemetic yoga, we are trained to know that people with knee injury should not do this particular posture, but they should do other postures that's going to help their knees. And then over time, as the knees develop, as the knees become more healthy, we can introduce them into more practices that may challenge the knees, you know. So no, if you have a knee injury, you want to do yoga, and your teacher will teach you what poses to avoid and what poses that you should engage in. That's going to actually be therapeutic for your knees. Yoga, and especially kinetic yoga, is supposed to be a therapeutic experience. And so kinetic yoga is designed to be a therapeutic experience. And as I said previously, my teacher was a naturopath. A naturopath is not a naturopath. Like say Dr. Africa was a naturopath. A naturopath does manipulation of your body, to align your energy, to align your skeletal system, to align your musculature system, to stimulate the production of to stimulate blood flow, to stimulate the organs to function better, to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system so your body can actually heal itself better. Okay. So somebody says that lately I've been more curious about the diet of our ancestors. Should meat be a part of our diets? I can't remember which elder I was watching, but he alluded to not eating meat and an order of set. Okay. So in Kemetic yoga, we emphasize not consuming animal products. We emphasize a plant-based diet, and a plant-based diet means that it doesn't mean that you're going to go down to the corner and get some Impossible Burger or some other stuff like that. It means that you're going to start to incorporating fresh, organic fruit, vegetables.
That's right.
Seeds and grains into your diet, and you want to avoid dairy products. You want to avoid meats. So dairy product. What is dairy products? Cheese, especially. Eggs. And I'm not a person who's gonna be like, oh, you should never consume this. If you eat it one time, it's gonna destroy you. I'm not that type of person to say that, but I think that you should. For me myself, for the last almost 50 years, I have not been eating meat. I have not had any meat. I have not had dairy products. I have not had eggs. Okay. I take certain foods and I mix them together to get my complete protein, to get my B complex vitamins, to get all of my vitamins and all of my minerals and so on and so forth, right? So you learn the science of nutrition and you carry forth with it. A lot of times people say, oh, I'm losing weight. I don't like the way I look. Your weight may go down because of the fact that your body is starting to adapt, your body is starting to adjust. Weight loss may be part of the healing process. So you have to endure that, but know that eventually your body is going to become its natural weight.
That's right.
Perhaps your conception of how much you should weigh or your conception of how your body should look is skewed. And so There was a time when I was growing up, back in the 50s and 60s, all the kids were skinny. You know, we might have had one person in our class, one or two kids who were like plump. But today, you know, at least half or more of the kids are plump and way more than plump, you know, because obesity, overweight, all those things have become endemic in as part of this society because of the food deserts, because of the poor food choices that we are, you know, left with, and so on and so forth. You know, so the diet is fundamental. What you eat into what you consume into your body is 50% of your yoga practice.
Mhm. So I'm glad this question came up about what to eat, because yoga isn't something that you do. It's who you are. It's your lifestyle. It isn't just, oh, I'm going to take this yoga class at the gym. I'm not saying there's something wrong with yoga class at the gym, but it's more than just a class at the gym. It's a part of a lifestyle that you adapt. The very first yoga class I took was Bikram yoga on the Upper West Side. No, I'm sorry. That's the first. Okay, no. The very first class of yoga that I took was in Simsbury, Connecticut in 2003. I had gotten waitlisted at medical school, but did not get completely in. And I felt depressed, and I didn't want to get deeper into a depression. So I took this yoga class, right? I joined the gym specifically to take yoga. So I had one level of experience with that. You know, I felt better, and I knew something was happening internally. I didn't have the vocabulary to understand it. Then I did Bikram yoga in 2005. When I did Bikram yoga in 2005 on the Upper West Side, at the end of class, it was a long, hot 90-minute class. At the end of class, people were drinking kombucha and just all kind of stuff. And so this woman who had a beautiful practice, she was in the front row, and I actually watched how she was moving. She offered some of her kombucha to me. And I was thinking to myself, well, didn't kill her, shouldn't kill me. Let me try it. And so I tried it, and it was bubbly and foamy and tasty, and I liked it. And so when you step into spaces where what you do with your body is to heal, you meet other people and have other experiences where there are other modalities of healing. The only reason why food would be considered a modality to heal is because it's been so distorted in our consumeristic society that food isn't used for what its intent is, which is, yes, to satiate hunger and to nourish the body, but also to heal. So a part of a yogic lifestyle, a comedic yogic lifestyle, includes what you eat, because you're just not moving your body for moving your body's sake. It's what you do. It's how you live your life. It's how you interact with, and this is why it's comedic. It's how you interact with nature. It's how you respect the animals. It's how you respect your body. It's how you connect to your spirit, to the divine, to the Netru, how you recognize your ancestors. Okay? So, because our ancestors did this, and we see it. We see what they left behind for us to do. So the food is definitely a part of that. Some might argue, well, we see that offerings had meat. The meat nowadays is like schmeat. You don't know what it is. And you don't know what happened to that animal before it was butchered, as opposed to a sacrifice to the ancestors thousands and thousands of years ago, when an animal was an animal and you knew what it was, and there was a ritual behind the sacrifice before it was given as an offering. Okay? In 2022, being plant-based or being vegan, just like what Yirser said, doesn't mean getting fake food to mimic meat. And if you read the ingredients, it says something along the lines of, there is a bio engineered food item or food component. What is that? What is that? At least when they were abusing the animals, you knew it wasn't an abused animal. What's the bioengineered food item? Mimicking meat is not plant-based. That's mimicking meat. That's introducing a foreign object. We don't even know what that is. Greens, grains, old grains, nuts, seeds. I do have oat milk creamer, but don't tell Yirser, but I have that with my coffee sometimes. So it's still vegan. So maybe I cheat a little tiny bit, but I have that as well. All kinds of berries. You have blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries. You could have that with some almond milk or oat milk or something like that. You could put a beet in there, pineapple, banana, have a nice smoothie. If you have one of those, it might take you from the morning all the way into mid-afternoon. A big smoothie like that. You've got beets, that's good for blood circulation, help lower your blood pressure. You've got potassium in bananas. You've got antioxidants in all those berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. And here's the cheat code. Put whatever fruits and vegetables you want in. If you're starting, just put it in the blender and put in pineapple and or a Granny Smith apple to make it sweet. And along the way, you can learn what different greens and vegetables provide and what different fruits provide. And you can have a more sculpted diet, meaning what you eat for you and for your needs. Let's say you need to lose weight. How are we losing weight? More greens, more fiber, fast, do an enema. Yes, fellas, do an enema. I'm going to talk about enemas in a second. If you want to increase your blood circulation, drop your blood pressure, you can take some beets. And there's something else that escapes me. Oh, you want to sweeten something up? Use a pitted date or figs. I have a sweet tooth, people. There's no reason to not enjoy what you eat, okay? Get a nice juicer. You can get your green juice going on. It can be really fun and interesting and exciting and sometimes disastrous when you're trying something new, but you have to go into it with an open mind and just be open for the experience. That's my advice. Be open for the experience of learning something new and realize sometimes it's going to go wrong. It's going to be nasty, but since you paid for it, you're going to eat it. If you go into it with those two things, open-minded, and you're going to eat it anyway, it just becomes what you do. Just like whatever you're doing now is what you're doing now. If you replace that with something healthy, then that's what you're doing. And it becomes just as easy to do that as well. Like tonight for dinner, I had some pasta and some vegetables. What were my vegetables? I had a red onion, mushrooms, collard greens, and carrots. Because I like to just clear out all my vegetables when I think that they're getting a little, not old, but it's time to eat them, right? And so I just boiled the pasta. I sauteed the veggies, took the pasta off, drained it. Then I cooked my kale down. Then I put the pasta in it, and I used soy-free vegan mayo. That's another cheat for me too. Okay, all kind of seasonings, and you mix it up, and it was yummy. And it's so easy, right? So we can have another episode on eating healthy and eating some good food. As a matter of fact, I'm working on that because this is a part of having a lifestyle that's good for the body. Now, when you're eating food that's good for your body, that's also good for your mind. It's also good for your spirit and your soul, because the spirit and the soul and the mind and the physical body are not like separate containers. Okay, so if you're putting in horrible food, if you're eating slave food, which you've heard me say before, what do you think that's doing to your mind? Okay, the entry point into this lifestyle is a whole lot easier than people think. It really truly is. It really truly is. Yirser is going to be having a Kemetic yoga teacher training in Jamaica, but we're going to come to that a little bit later. But I just want to let you know, when you do the Kemetic yoga teacher training with Yirser, it's not just about the physical movements. It's about introducing you to a healthy lifestyle. So in a sense, it's about introducing you to how you can get back to you. and your natural form of movement, your natural range of flexibility, foods that make you feel good and energetic and healthy on the inside. It's more than just looking cute, y'all. And all these people walking around here in yoga clothes, ain't been to yoga, ain't going to the gym. It's more than just that. Okay. So I hope that, we answered the question and went on. Oh, thank you, Teak Wellbeing. Oh, thank you. Yes. Let's see who else. Yes, eat live food. Jamie Jania. I hope I said that right. Eat live food. Question Me said that part, my life is changing and my relationship with food is definitely the next big thing I have to understand about myself. Yes. So be kind to yourself when you are learning about food. So much of our food is not real. There's a lot of misinformation. We're given misinformation on purpose. If you use the traditional food chart, it's a bunch of starch and heavy meats. It slows down your body. As Pan-African Black people, we eat slave food sometimes. We'll take a can and put grease in the can and put it on the stove because we don't want to mess up our pipes in the kitchen, but you put that in your mouth. You think that the damage that you don't want to happen to your pipes is not happening to your body? Come on, right? So if you came up on that and you grew up on McDonald's and bodega food and now you're trying to make a change, and I'm not just specifically speaking to anyone in particular, I'm just saying in general, and we have all these portion sizes, then be kind to yourself as you learn to deprogram what's been told to you is food, okay? For those of us who, my mama cooked fresh food all the time, and when I wanted McDonald's or pizza, I had to wear her down for days. So it's easier for someone like me to just jump into something healthy, even though I eat cookies too much. That's because I have a sweet tooth. So when you go on this journey of eating healthy, then just be kind to yourself. All right. Let's see.
I would say to people that
Huh?
you need to have a community around you. You should
Right.
get, if you're going to change your diet, it's good to be like in a support group, where, you're in a like-minded group of people. You can go on a cleansing regimen together, go into a
Mhm.
fast together so that you can support each other. You can go into, a diet change group where everybody is changing their diet at the same time, learning the same information. And you need to have some kind of a teacher who can teach you the proper ways of doing these things, you know. And so the brother, he's saying, and if I'm honest with myself, I just keep making reasons up to keep eating meat. Yeah. So, that's okay. You can make up reasons to keep eating meat, but eventually, you have to come out of that type of a mindset and
Mhm.
start to understand that, you don't really need that. And you have to find, you have to do your study, do your research to find alternatives. One of the things that people do, excuse me, that make them think that they still need to eat meat is that they don't get enough B complex vitamins. So what we do in kinetic yoga, we teach people how to use superfoods. So we use superfoods that have a high degree of B complex vitamins. They have all your amino acids. They have your vitamin C, all your minerals and stuff. So we use things like bee pollen, spirulina,
Mhm.
moringa. Um, we use mushrooms like reishi, like lion's mane, turkey tail, stuff like that. Cordyceps. You can buy these in a potted form, and you can use those as to mix in with your smoothie. You know, um, and when you mix it with fresh juice, you're going to get your vitamin C. And so that's going to help your B complex vitamins to be absorbed. It's going to help your amino acids and your iron and your calcium to be absorbed, into your body. And so a lot of times you have to, just know what you're doing and just take your time and know that, you're doing something that's really going to benefit you, but you got to take your time. Even if you go up and down, suppose you slip up and you say, "Oh, I stopped eating meat for 6 months or 6 weeks or something. I ate some more. I ate meat. I got back into that thing, back into that cycle again. That's okay. Just because it's very hard to break that habit.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we teach in yoga, we talk about yoga skills, and one of your yoga skills is being non-judgmental towards yourself.
That's
One of
right.
your yoga skills is not punishing yourself for not being everything that you want to be at this point in time, because you're never going to be everything that you want to be, but you want to be in a steady state of improvement, during the time that you on this plane of existence. Okay. So Olivia, she says we have to let go of alternatives. That's part of our mindset and substitutes, and also substitutes. Yeah, we don't need alternative or substitute for meat, and we just need to learn what are healthy foods, and meat is not. Meat is simply not something that your body needs. We eat meat. Human beings developed the habit of eating meat because they needed a source of protein. The anthropologists, some of them some types of anthropologists, they try to claim that the human brain developed the way that it did because when people started eating animal products and stuff like that. That's a theory which I don't necessarily, agree with, because I know that you can get all the nutrients for your brain, from vegetable sources, so you don't need to have a substitute because eating the meat is not even the proper thing to do in the first place. So you don't need to substitute for it. You just need to do the right thing and eat the right types of foods.
Yasir, can you give us your website? And Cheryl, can you put it in the chat so we can post it so people can start to see some of the contact information for Yasir? So Yasir, what's your website?
Kemetic, KEMETIC, yoga skills, YOGASKILLS.com.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to wait for that to be put in the chat. Now, you have a couple of good questions that I would like, for you to answer. Can you tell us the difference between organic and, one question, what's organic and why is that important? And then what is alkalinity? We hear alkaline this, alkaline that. Alkalinity is key. So can you first let us know about organic and then alkaline?
Well, you have two things. You have organic and you have conventional. Organic means that it is fruits and vegetables, and they also put some type of meats and dairy products, animal products into organic also. But organic means that the food was not produced using chemical fertilizers, insecticides, or fertilizers, insecticides, and whatever else that they may use to grow crops with. Um, the soil that the crop is grown in, it needs to have been free of these types of chemicals for at least 5 years before the food that's grown in that soil can be called organic. And I think the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, USDA actually oversees the enforcement of organic food laws and policies. And they, to my knowledge, they do a good job because a lot of times people are skeptical about
You're
organic
right.
They say, "Oh, I don't believe it's organic. I'm just gonna buy the conventional." If you are buying organic fruits and vegetables, you are able to taste the difference over time.
You can.
You can look at the fruits and vegetables sometimes. You can see the difference in how they look.
Yep.
You can see the difference in how they taste. Organic, soft fruits, like, say, peaches and plums and grapes and strawberries, blueberries, those things should never, ever be eaten unless they're organic because the chemicals that they use to produce them um, soak themselves into the flesh of those fruits. You can't just clean the surface of them and think that you got rid of them because those pesticides, insecticides, and so on and so forth have become part of the makeup of the actual fruit. And so you always want to buy anything that has a soft skin. You always want to buy it organic. Anything that has a like as I say, an apple has a little bit harder skin. Apples, most of your apples that you buy, even if they're organic, they have a wax film on them. The wax is a food grade wax, which is not that, it's not going to harm you, for the most part. But you can wash that off. They do a lot of stupid things with fruits, like to make them look a certain way because Americans are programmed to look at something and they look at an orange, they look at an apple, they think it's supposed to look a certain way because of their conditioning. And so the industry has made fruits look a certain way by putting waxes on them to make them shiny and all kind of things which are really just dumb, you know. Um, so so you really want to use organic fruits and vegetables, things like broccoli, cauliflower, kale greens, cabbage, any of your vegetables, any of your fruits, you want to get them organic. You know, you also want to get organic. If you eat things like brown rice, you want to get that organic. If you eat things like lentils or beans, you want to get those organic. You know, you want to basically eat organic as a principle. People talk about alkaline. I don't, me personally, because I think people have gone overboard with this idea of alkaline. If you're a vegetarian, if you're a vegan, if you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you're already alkaline. You don't have to spend $5 for a gallon of water because it says alkaline on it. You know, let's eat alkaline foods. If you eat if you eat meat, that's acid. If you eat cheese, that's acid. If you eat fish, that's acid. If you eat some collard greens, some kale greens, some broccoli, some cauliflower, that's alkaline. So let's eat it. And you'll be alkaline. You ain't got to worry about it. You don't have to be like on this crusade to only eat alkaline foods and stuff like that. I think that the people who have propagated that idea that everything has to be alkaline, I think they went overboard and they got people becoming too obsessed with that. That's my opinion. You know,
I have that opinion as well because the body has certain systems that have to be acidic, like your stomach acid. And, everything is not just this one big container. When you put it in your mouth, everything is this one big container. We have different organs, different systems, different spaces that need to have their own pH. And so I think that for as far as the alkalinity is concerned, that's something that we should just research. What does that mean? Which systems in our bodies have to be alkaline or acidic or close to neutral? And just like what Yirser said, if we're eating what we're supposed to be eating, then the pH is probably something that doesn't have to be the focus. Just real food, organic food, and healthy food should be our focus. For me, my rule of thumb, and this is me, if it did not exist when my great grandmother was alive, it ain't food and I ain't eating it. Because how
Well,
you inventing food? That's how
I
I
mean,
feel.
the worst foods people can eat are things like, I call them there's like Franken food,
Frankenstein food, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even, like the beyond impossible burger and beyond meat and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's one thing. You don't want to really consume too much of that stuff. But, if you eat that sometimes, it's way better than eating a Twinkie. It's way better than eating a Big Mac. It's way better than eating all these other stuff, a hot dog that people eat. Um, so if you want to treat yourself with something, because you could drive yourself crazy. I've seen people drive themselves become neurotic, with this obsession that I cannot ever eat anything unless it's perfect. And then they can't really live up to that expectation. So then when they fall down, they become neurotic and they become depressed and they become this, that, and the other. And they feel ashamed of themselves because they ate a cookie, or ate a this or ate a that. And you go and you eat that stuff, and then you eat it in every blue moon, and then you let it go. But agonizing over how much pH is in how much your alkalinity of your water, as if you don't eat other foods. If you just get a bottle of spring water, or you filter your water, you drink that, and you eat fresh fruits and vegetables, organic, you're alkaline already. You ain't got to be like, oh my God, my water is not alkaline enough. I might buy me a $3,000 machine that's gonna give me alkaline water. That's just my perspective. I think that everything has to be in balance. Everything has to be in perspective. Um, a lot of the diets that people say they go on, they say this is an alkaline diet, this is that. Um, and the thing about it is that it's not because the diet is alkaline, it's because it is healthy.
Right.
If you eat fresh fruits and vegetables, you know, you're going to lose weight. Your body's going to heal itself from different diseases. You don't have to follow this particular guru or that particular guru. Just eat fresh fruits, eat vegetables, drink water, drink herbal teas. If you have a particular ailment, right? Like say you have lupus or you have fibroids or then you might have to go really, you might have to go in really much more deeper about certain things, about what you should take out of your diet, what you should put into your diet, and so on and so forth, because you're working with a particular ailment. But if you're just in a general basis, just trying to be healthy, you know, you don't have to be tripping over, a piece of broccoli was created 2000 was hybridized 2000 years ago by the Romans, and it's like, I can't eat that because it's a hybrid. It's like, it's okay. All your fruits and vegetables are hybrids. You understand what I'm saying? What is a hybrid? They take a piece of one plant and they connect it to another plant, and then it produces the genetic material from those two plants produce something that tastes like a combination of those two plants, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not genetic. Hybrid and genetic modified is two different things.
Mm-hmm.
People equate hybrid with in Africa or on any farm, anybody that does natural farming, they mix different plants together. You know, that's how you get certain. That's how you get nectarines and certain type of plums, and so because they're hybrid. You know, and hybrid does not, and so hybrid doesn't mean genetically modified. Genetically modified is when a scientist goes into a laboratory and he takes the genetic material from a plant and he takes the genetic material from a fish and he wants to make the tomato more red. So he takes the pigment, he takes the gene from the salmon that makes the salmon look pink or red, and he puts that into the tomato to make the tomato look like it's more red. That's genetically modified. Not taking a branch from you know, a broccoli and sticking it onto a cauliflower and make the cauliflower green. That is not genetically modified. You know, that's not the same thing as what we call GMO. GMO is something that you want to avoid. You don't want to eat GMO things, you know. So somebody said, what about the poor person? How do we live this holistic Kemetic lifestyle? The fact that a person may have a lack of of income is a perfect reason to not eat meat. Is a perfect reason to avoid the money that you're going to spend on a pound of ground beef, on a steak, on 5 pounds of fish or whatever. You can buy some brown rice, you can buy some beans, you can buy some broccoli, some collard greens, some kale greens, some onions, and you can buy that much cheaper than if you was buying meat. So all you're doing is substituting your the money that you're spending for one thing for another thing, and oftentimes it's going to be cheaper. A pound of a pound of organic brown rice is cheaper than a pound of ground beef. So let the ground beef go, and you know, and you're gonna be eating holistic stuff. What you have to invest your time into is learning how to prepare your foods, learning how to season them, and so on and so forth. Learning how to get your things, you know, then shopping. Like what I used to do, I used to take students and people around to shop. I would take them to the natural food store. I would show them. I would take them to the fruit market, to the the vegetable market, and I would show them, okay, make this choice over here rather than that choice. Organic fruits and vegetables do cost more in general than conventional. But let's say you go to a place like Whole Foods. Whole Foods have their own little brand of food items that they sell called 365. And so you get the Whole Foods brand and you're going to get a discount. Plus you get to Amazon Prime, you're going to get a discount. Unfortunately, Whole Foods has run almost all the other smaller health food stores out of business because they have a big excuse me, they're like a big company that has a greater capacity than the smaller health food stores. So you don't see the small health food stores anymore. And actually, when you go to the smaller health food stores, a lot of times the food costs more when you go there than when you go to a place like Whole Foods. So you have to put some study into it, and you have to consciously look at prices, look at ingredients, look at whether something is conventional or organic. When you buy an organic fruit or vegetable, you can look at the little tag, and if it begins with a 9, that means organic.
That's a fact.
If it begins with a 4, that means conventional, so on and so forth. But you always want to see that little 9 at the beginning of that long number. And so the first thing you have to do is don't get caught up into the stereotype that eating natural, eating healthy is more expensive. It's more expensive to have cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, so on and so forth. It's more expensive to have those diseases than to go buy some organic broccoli.
And also, so thank you for that, Yasir, and breaking down, different options for healthy foods. I mean, to the meal I made tonight, I don't know how much it cost, but I just cooked the vegetables that I had in my refrigerator with some pasta, basically, and my seasonings and some cooking oil. Okay. Another thing you can look into, or any of us, and we all should be able to be in control of the food that we eat, is to grow our own food and to grow as much food as we possibly can. In previous Tuesday talks, I've had Let's Grow Inside at Robert Gilchrist. He was on with Let's Grow Inside, and the focus was on legally growing medicinal marijuana, if that's something that you want to grow. But you can also grow other foods. You can grow kale and spinach and collard greens, like dark leafy greens, bok choy. You can grow that. Lettuce is so super easy to grow, and I'm talking about growing inside. You can, if you have a small garden plot, you can plant garlic around late September, early October in the Northeast, and you can grow garlic in cold climates. And then in the spring, you harvest your garlic and you plant your onions. Okay, so learning how to grow your own food, you can get those growing towers and grow that in your kitchen. Remember chia pet back in the day? That's growing stuff. That's basically what that is. You can grow microgreens. There are a lot of options of what you can grow in your home. And of course, that depends on the size of your home and how much you're willing to invest in it. It's like what you see was saying, all of those diseases are awful diseases. And not only are they expensive financially, they're expensive. They take your time and your vitality in life of your life. You want to have a vital life while you are here, you know? And so that's something that I would look into. There are farmers markets. You can look into getting to know your own farmers in your local area. There are food co-ops. There are a lot of different ways that you can grow your own food or find low cost food. There's Go ahead.
And you could also in answer to Buddy's question, like what you just said about co-ops, get 5 of your friends together and buy in bulk. We used to go down to the big market where the trucks would come in and bring the food, because of the fact that and then we would buy like a case of apples, a case of oranges, and we divide it up between ourselves, because so you have to be innovative. You can't just say, oh, I'm poor, so I'm just going to eat some crap. The consequences for your health is going to be very expensive.
That's right.
You have to deal with those things.
Yasir, before we get into answering that question, I do want to go back to when you said something about organic. Couple of things. Fruit naturally has seeds. So when you see something that is organic and seedless, I ain't buying it. What did you do to the grapes, to the watermelons, to the limes, to whatever, where they naturally have seeds, and now they have no seeds, but you're telling me that it's organic? Technically, it might be organic because of the rules with the pesticide and the soil and stuff that Yasir mentioned earlier tonight. But if a fruit doesn't have seeds, it ain't organic to me. All right. So make sure you're careful about that. Just because it says organic, it doesn't mean somebody wasn't in a lab tinkering with it.
So you're bringing that up because you want to fight with me? about seedless.
You do seedless?
Listen, I prefer, my favorite type of grapes are black Ribier grapes. They have the seeds in them. But if you took some grapes that are organic and you did a chemical analysis of what's in that grape, you're not going to find something that's going to be harmful to you. What you're going to find is that the seedless has a little bit less nutritional value than the ones with the seeds. Now, a little bit less nutritional value in a seedless watermelon or seedless grape. That's about the only thing you're gonna find that's seedless. It's not like everything is running around. You don't see seedless apples, and you might see some oranges that are seedless, but most oranges have seeds in them.
But where they
Um,
come from, you see, if they're seedless?
they're not seedless because they still do have seeds in them. The seeds are just they it's just like when it's just like these royal families in Europe, and they marry the uncle to the niece, and the daughter to the father, and all kind of crazy stuff, and then they have used certain types of hybrid to mix, to select for smaller seeds, but the seeds are still there. If you open up a seedless grape, it's got seeds in it. If you open up a watermelon, it's got seeds in it. There's no such thing as seedless. And so, unless you could do a chemical analysis to say that this seedless fruit is toxic in some kind of way, that it's you know, that if you eat this, it's gonna cause you to have cancer. It's gonna cause that. What is it gonna do to you, other than the fact you don't have seeds in it? The only
I
thing
don't know.
from my research,
Hmm.
the only thing I can find is that seedless has a little bit less nutrition. But I have not found anything to say if a person eats this seedless grape or this seedless watermelon, they're going to develop some type of tumor, a cancer, a condition, or whatever. If you eating, because people would eat or a conventional grape that's full of pesticides and insecticides and chemical fertilizer because it's got some seeds in it. And then they taking in all this crap that we know causes cancer, that we know causes tumors, that we know that contribute to fibroids and stuff like that. But they say, oh, it's got seeds in it, so it must be better. It's not better. So to me, the seedless thing is it's just an exaggeration. It's, to me, it's like alkaline. It's like, you can, if you don't want to eat the seedless grapes, you don't eat them. But don't be acting like if somebody else eat them, they're gonna die and their balls gonna fall off. I'm sorry to say that. Because that's the kind of things people say. Oh, the watermelon don't have seeds, so it's going to affect your seeds in your body. No, it's not. So if you can find seedless, you should eat it. It tastes better, it's sweeter, so on and so forth. And I'm sure it's better, but it's not going to harm you if you eat something that don't have seeds. Because you have to have a reason. You have to say, when I did a chemical analysis of this plant that was grown with this technique that causes things to have smaller seeds, not seedless. Seedless is a marketing term. They do have seeds. Look at your watermelon; it's got seeds in it. It's just smaller, but it's not going to make your reproductive organs smaller because you ate a slice of seedless watermelon. So I know the people that really believe in that, they're gonna be like, no, oh my God, how can you say that? They're gonna be like really freaking out. Their head's gonna be exploding. But if you think logically, show me the evidence that when people eat something that's so-called seedless, that it harms their health. A seeded grape that's conventional is way worse than a seedless organic.
I agree with you on that, with the organic or the inorganic or the conventional. And just like with those skins that you were saying, it completely absorbs it. I do have to say this. There are some people who say, like with oranges or lemons or limes, it doesn't matter if it's organic. It does matter. You can see that they're different. The rinds are different. It feels different and it tastes different. And its effect is different. When I'm fasting, and just doing like a water or tea fast, like no coffee, no cream, just water and tea. And I'm using lemons because that helps with digestion and moving your bowels. Now, I don't have any problems with that. Your girl boots the shop and regular since day one. However, when you're detoxing and cleansing, you do want to use lemons sometimes if that's a part of what you're doing, or fasting, right? And I have tried regular lemons or conventional lemons versus organic lemons. There is a noticeable difference, especially if you're using the enemas and you're working on the colon cleansed part of it. All right. So don't believe that hype when they say if you can pass on the organic lemon, lime, oranges, and the fruits that have that kind of skin. Don't get organic as often as possible. Okay. And just like what Yirser said, think outside the box. Let's say the four of you, let's say you and your homies, four of y'all, you want to eat healthier, you start getting the crates of apples and the crates of oranges, or the crates of seed less, meaning less seed grapes, as per Yirser, and things along those lines. Okay. I know from my own personal experience that you can tell the difference between a conventional lemon and an organic lemon. Now, here's a good question.
Well,
What is, oh, I'm sorry.
let me say this about the oranges, about the citrus fruits. I don't know how up to date my information is, but this is just over the years. It's always been assumed that citrus fruit that comes in from Florida are less sprayed with, pesticides and chemical fertilizers than the ones that come from California. So that's always been the information that I've had, but I haven't checked it out or verified that in some time. But
what's the reasoning for that? Do they tell you why Florida has less chemicals on it than the ones from California?
Just because of the climate, I don't really know. Florida's, even though California is warm, Florida is more tropical.
Yeah, Southern Florida, Miami is in some of the hardiness zones. So when you're gardening, just really quickly, there are different zones that run horizontal. For the most part, they run horizontal, and basically it's based upon temperature, humidity, sunlight, and water, the amount of rain, and so that lets you know what you can grow, when, how long your planting season is, how long your season is, right? So I live in the Northeast, and the hardiness zone is pretty much the same. In well, it's different, but I'm from Connecticut. Even in Connecticut, I think there are like two or three different hardiness zones in Connecticut, and so just because it's one state, it doesn't necessarily have the same growing capabilities. So when you look at Florida, South Florida, Miami is more similar to the Caribbean than you would psychologically think of the United States. So I would imagine that they need less of something because they have so much heat. Maybe the heat kills the whatever the problem is. I don't know, but it definitely has to do with the climate, because Miami is hot and moist, like a yoga classroom.
But like I said, I don't really know, but it's something that people can research. But if you, like what the brother was saying about not having a lot of money, sometimes if you can get you some um, conventional oranges grown in Florida, it might be okay. But the thing you have to look at is that those oranges are probably going to be sprayed. A lot of times when you touch those oranges, you get that orange stuff on your hand. The best oranges actually come from Jamaica, but the oranges in Jamaica, they look kind of greenish and they kind of look beat up. And so the food industry has decided not to market those oranges in the United States because they have programmed people in the United States to only recognize oranges that look perfect, and so the ones in Florida, they actually spray them with stuff, So I don't know how good it is really to eat that stuff, But you can wash it off the surface, but it's better to just get organic and keep on stepping.
That's crazy. How do we get these green or non-orange oranges from Jamaica in the United States? How do we get them?
Just get on a plane, go down there, get you a bushel of them. They sell big bags of them on the highway, on the street.
All right, cool.
So
J-Hop asks a really good question. Before I ask this question, Kurtz, Sally, you said Sebi did. Can you put in the chat what Sebi did? Okay. Now, J-Hop asks a really good question, or poses a really good question. What is the argument that it doesn't matter what you eat because the disease runs in the family?
Well, you do have diseases that are passed on from generation to generation. An example of that would be type 1 diabetes. And I know about this through, my own personal family history, the type 1 diabetes. I have a son, I have a daughter. I have a son and a niece who died from complications of type 1 diabetes. So I know that's a real thing.
Right.
And diet, people, you can clearly get an idea of who I am. I researched everything to find out what could, heal this particular type of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is where your own immune system attacks the pancreas. So my son, who passed away from complications from diabetes, when he was born, he was a vegan. When he died, he was a vegan. My niece, when she was born, she was a sad person. She was standard American diet. And so that's how she was raised. But both of them had diabetes. So both of them had to take insulin twice, had to take an insulin shot twice a day to check their blood sugar and so on and so forth, right? And so you can't say that diet can heal everything.
Right.
But the percentage of people with diseases they cannot be affected by diet is very, very small. Most diseases are diseases of degenerative diseases that come from lifestyle, heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, stroke, so on and so forth. These diseases can be avoided and these diseases can be healed by changing your diet. So it does make a difference, even if it runs in your family. Running in the family simply means that my great-grandmama, my great-grandfather, my grandparents, my parents, me, we all be eating the same thing generation after generation. So we all have clogged arteries because we eat food that clog the arteries.
Right. That's
food
right.
that we consume in our family, like if you look at, remember that old movie Soul Food, right? And The big mama, she kept they called her Big Mama. She kept the whole family together because she would serve them all this greasy, so-called soul food that brought everybody together. But Big Mama had diabetes. She was overweight. She had heart disease. She had all kind of diseases that was caused by the food that she was using to bring everybody back into the family to try to keep them together and keep them in some kind of cooperative mode of working with each other, right? And so, and so those diseases she was having was probably going to be saying, "Oh, this is part of our family lineage," because you eating this. Everybody from generation to generation, they're eating the same old stuff, you
That's
know.
right.
And then certain type of diseases, why do they become intergenerational? Because of the fact that they have the same lifestyle, the same eating habits, and because they are undergoing certain types of stress, they're undergoing certain traumatic experiences on an ongoing basis.
Yep.
And so, it becomes passed on. A parent, a mother who is under stress, she passes on those predispositional types of ailments to the offspring. Okay, you have something called epigenetics, right? Epigenetics means that your genetic code can be altered or changed by your environment or by the way that you think and the way that you organize your thoughts and so on and so forth, right? And so now we have now we are to the point in as African people, the descendants of enslaved Africans who have experienced distress generation after generation after generation. We have gotten to the point where these genetic abnormalities have not just been manifested in the people who are currently alive, but have become part of the genetic makeup, right? And are actually passed on from one generation to the next. So the gene that causes obesity is passed on from mother to child. The gene that causes that predisposes a person, I ain't gonna say cause, but predisposes a person towards heart disease or stroke, is passed on from mother to child because of changes in the damage to certain
Genetic.
cells. It's beginning for T. That was part of my little PowerPoint I was going to talk about. I was going to do.
The tetrameres or something like that.
Yeah, telomeres.
Telomeres. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the damage to the telomeres, that damage has been institutionalized, so to speak, within the body, and then that damage can be passed on. So telomere, you look at a telomere like you look at the end of your shoestring, and the end of the shoestring has a little plastic wrap at the end. But then when that plastic come off, you see the little fibers of the shoestring, and you can't stick the string into the hole anymore when you try to tie your shoe or lace up your shoe. And that's what telomeres are. The telomeres hold the end of the genes together. And so the genes start to unravel. And so that's called genetic damage. And so that's caused by, and so you can do that within your own body by overeating, by eating the bad food, by smoking, by drinking, all those type of things. And people with melanin, which is us, we have a higher predisposition to becoming damaged by things like cigarette smoke, environmental pollutants, poor diet, because melanin, it gives you an advantage, but that advantage has to be cultivated. That advantage, you have to feed yourself healthy food in order for that melanin to really do what it's supposed to do.
So, and to be brief or to be concise, it is, with the exception of diseases like type 1 diabetes, sickle cell,
Yeah, sickle
you know,
cell.
diseases like that, we have a choice. We have a choice in how we want to take care of ourselves. Okay. Sometimes it's harder to make that choice than others. I will agree with that, because good health has a high price on the front end, and poor health has an even higher price on the back end. That's the way our society here is designed. One of the reasons we have Tuesday Talk is so that you're educated on how you can create your own ecosystem of common sense, which includes diet and exercise. Bringing it back to yoga, this is a way, just like what Yirser said, to build muscle, to strengthen the bone density, to lose weight, to increase your flexibility, which leads to increasing your range of motion. The first thing you do is release tension. Before you can even get into that flexibility, you got to release tension. Before you can release tension, you need to know how to breathe. It always comes back to the breath. Okay. So this is free. Tuesday Talk is free, although I would appreciate you hitting up the Cash App. Tuesday Talk is free. You can watch it whenever you want to watch it. I encourage you to participate in the chat and then come back and take notes and see how this is going to fit into your life. And one of the things that we do here with Tuesday Talk is we give tangible tools that you can use to get started. We talked about growing your food in your house, windowsill. If you have a little yard, you can have growing towers in your kitchen or patio space or something like that. If you don't want to attract animals and bugs, that makes sense. And who wants that, right? But if you plant peppers, garlic, and onions, animals and I would imagine bugs don't want to eat that. Animals don't want to eat that. My mom has a garden, and one season chipmunks were eating all her tomatoes, but they left the peppers. So peppers are really good for you. They help with your weight. They have capsaicin. Peppers, garlic, and onions. Animals don't like those, but do your own research. Please do your own research, and you know your own circumstances. I don't. You know your own circumstances, and look into what you can do to grow inside, grow on windowsills and ledges, like I said, patios, and then see what kind of outside garden space you could get. Those things are very effective. You can also look into, when you get some food, you can can it. I had a Tuesday Talk with canning with Sister Colette, how to can. You can freeze dry food. Pickle it. There are a lot of ways to get food and then store it so that you've got organic, healthy, real food that you have access to. Those things are also options for you as well. And don't forget, we talked about juicing. And Yirser also made a really good suggestion with getting like crates of fruits and stuff like that. And you split it with whomever is really serious about taking their health into their own hands, literally, so that they can change the trajectory of their lives and also their families. Because just like there's a passing down of epigenetics, you can also pass down good health. You can also pass down good eating habits. You can also pass down a new way to look at food and to be a little experimental with healthy foods. I was vegan off and on for a while, and then one day I was like, I am so done just doing that. I don't want to do that anymore, and I just didn't. And it's just, I haven't looked back. It's a lot easier than you think. It's fun and exciting. And let me tell you something: you put the right spices on just about anything, it's going to taste good. Okay, so there's that, and then there's also little cheats, like you can get vegan ice cream, soy-free, vegan cookie dough ice cream. It's probably not, in the spirit, but it tastes good and it keeps you on track with eating, being healthy and being deliberate with the food that you want to eat. Now, I'm going to see if we have any more comments down here. Yeah, I have one that says I should invite brother Dr. Eris Latham to talk about food, live food, alkaline or acidic food. We need an intake of acidic food each day when you eat, in contrast when fasting. Thank you, Ali Tufail. I'm sorry. I hope I said that. I hope I said that right. They removed us from our food. Kurt Sally said they absolutely did remove us from our food. They removed us from our food. We are maintaining that by eating slave food, y'all. I'm on it with that. We can't keep eating it and calling it soul food when it's really slave food. Now, please ask the rest of your questions. We're coming to a close of Tuesday Talk. I want to talk about Yirser's Kemetic Yoga Teacher Training. The Kemetic Yoga Teacher Training is going to be in Jamaica in January. And you learn how to become a Kemetic yoga teacher and also the Kemetic lifestyle with the food. When you do yoga, I'm telling you, it pushes you towards wanting to eat healthy without you even thinking about it at first. If you go with the flow with yoga and what you're taught and how you feel, you're going to want to have healthier food. You're going to want to eat it. It's going to taste better. You're going to feel better. You're going to sleep better. You're going to do everything better. All right. So Yirser, can you give us the particulars on your Kemetic Yoga Teacher Training?
Well, we do, number one, we have a teacher training course that we do online. And if you go to our website, KemeticYogaSkills.com, you can click on the different options that we have for teacher training. And so one of the options is an online course. And it's cost effective to do that course. You get a discount. I think there's a $200 or $300 discount. And you can also earn money when you refer people to take the course. So you can sign up as an affiliate. And once you become an affiliate, whoever you refer, they would get a discount, plus you would get paid for referring that person. So the online course is ongoing, it's self-paced. So you can start anytime and you can take it, and you can take your time to complete it. We do teacher training courses in Jamaica. Once you register for the teacher training course that we do in Jamaica, the one that we do in Egypt, the one that we do in Ghana and other places like that, you will automatically be enrolled in the online course so that you can prepare for the journey. So if you take the teacher training course in Jamaica, you would be, you can participate in the online curriculum and also participate in live online, live courses online on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, right? Until your training comes up. Same thing for Egypt. Jamaica is going to take place January 4th to the 14th. And we have a course coming up in Egypt, which is basically a tour of Egypt that's going to focus on the history and the philosophy of Kemetic yoga, but also, become certified as a Kemetic yoga teacher. So that's coming up November 23rd until December 4th. So we do our trainings, we do these things all throughout the year. I think in the summer of 2023, we're going to have a training in Costa Rica. I'm talking to a young lady there who is trying to get me to come down there in the summer. So we got a lot of things going on. But I encourage people to really check out the online course and, try to get into that, as well as coming to Jamaica.
Yeah, I'm looking at his page online on my phone. You can see, you can see this, the teacher training course. When you click the burger as it's called, and you just scroll There's so many options, you guys. So many options. You see Brazil and yoga and Egypt and I mean Brazil and Jamaica and Egypt and all of that. So I have the link is posted comedicyogaskills.com. Please take a look at that. My comedic yoga teacher training was amazing. We did it in New York City, and it was fun. I enjoyed it, and it was cool. We had a good time, and I had never I had never done a headstand. And so I was scared, y'all, because I was like, I don't want to hurt my neck. Anyway, that's a common fear, but you're not going to hurt your neck if you listen to instructions. So I had my arms extended and I was on my head. And on my very, 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 very first try, I did a headstand under the guidance and supervision of the master, Yirser Hotep. Going upside down is not my thing. I'm scared to go upside down, like just period. Like certain yoga postures are so simple and it's a challenge for me to do it. So I say all that to say it's a place where you can address some fears you might have, which is maybe my body is destined to be unhealthy. Maybe I'm destined to not have full access of range of motion. Maybe I'm always gonna have XYZ ailment. There are some, like we discussed, that can be addressed through lifestyle, with a vegan lifestyle and with yoga and some love and some fun. Okay, so Yasir, are there any parting words that you'd like to share before we take off for tonight?
Well, somebody suggested that you have Dr. Reese Latham
Mm-hmm.
on the show. I've been knowing Reese since about 1977, sometime like
Oh
that.
wow. Okay.
We have worked together in Jamaica and Dominica and other places like that. So he has a lot of information that he can impart, especially in terms of preparing live or raw vegan food. You know, I think he's down in Panama now. And the other part is just to, um, really don't be afraid to get into your diet change. Don't be
That's
afraid to start practicing yoga. Yoga is something that you do the best you can. You do the
right.
most you can at the time that you were doing it. And the more you do it, the better you're going to become. It's just like if a person decides they're gonna run a marathon. You're not going to run 26 miles on the first day, but you train to practice to build up to that point. So if yoga, you're practicing, you're at one point of your development, and then as you continue to practice and train, you go up to another level. And as your diet improves, as your practice habits improve, your body will change. Your
That,
mind will change, and you would notice all these different transformations that are taking place within your being.
well, that's
So,
good to know that you know him because I'm gonna hit you up after this. Help me get him on the show. And Ali Tofel, thank you for the suggestion. I hope that I got your name right. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who shows up for Tuesday Talk, even on a Monday, Tuesday Talk, week after week to support this platform and to support this show. And ultimately, it's supporting our community in our ability to gain knowledge and to heal ourselves. So, once again, thank you so much for joining, and I will see you next Tuesday.
all right, Hotep.
Hotel. There we go.